What are you doing here? My body froze like ice water under her icy glare, which was full of disdain for me as a janitor. I was unable to move. My first love was her. I tried to speak, but her group just stared at me curiously. Hey, do you know him? Absolutely not. Who would want to hang out with a janitor? I tried to cover my emotions with a forced smile, but my face became rigid and immobile. But that encounter would turn out to be a life-changing event for me. I want to thank you, she said, taking my hand and blushing. Tonight, are you free? Alex is my name. I work as a janitor at a big business building, and I'm 26 years old. I make an effort to keep the office pristine every day, trying to get rid of any dust. I was deep in concentration when Carol, an older, more seasoned janitor, who had been conversing cheerfully close by, shouted out to me. How long will it take you, Alex? Today, the entire floor needs to be cleaned. We'll never be done before sunset if you continue to be so thorough. I'm sorry. I couldn't help but notice this smudge on the railing. I'm a detail-oriented person by nature, and I frequently receive criticism for it. Carol gave me a frustrated expression when she saw how worried I was. To be honest, child, you're much too serious for your age. If you don't improve your time management, you'll miss lunch once more. You were such a problematic boy. Give me that cloth now. Thank you so much, I said in gratitude. Carol always helps me out and treats me like a son, even if she complains. Carol is like a second mother to me, and I believe we work well together. I saw a group of well-dressed men and women, who were probably corporate employees, coming from the opposite end of the corridor while we were scrubbing the floor together. I froze for a second when I saw the person in the middle of the group. It was Emily, a high school classmate. Emily seemed surprised to see me as well. What are you doing here? Her coworkers saw the discomfort between us and started to make fun of it. Emily, do you know him? Absolutely not. She had little prospect of knowing a janitor. The universes in which we live are quite different. I don't associate with dropouts, Emily whispered to herself before passing me. I was unable to move and remained motionless even after they had left. Carol, who is notorious for being the janitor gossip, told me, she's such a rude woman, after noticing how out of it I was. Her attractive face seems to belong to some exclusive group that they headhunted from somewhere. She is supposedly quite intelligent. As I listened to Carol's exaggerated, playful tone, I couldn't help but think of my high school years. In our junior year, Emily and I were in the same class. She came from a wealthy family and was the class clown, always at the top, the star of the tennis team, and a natural at playing the piano for the choir at tournaments. An actual prodigy. In addition to all of that, she had breathtaking beauty. I was astounded that someone so flawless could exist, even in high school. I was infatuated with Emily, the ideal girl, when I was younger. That was probably my first love. I can't recall what I said, but I eventually worked up the nerve to talk to Emily one day after school. She gave me a twisted look for a moment, her eyes steely and blazing, but she remained silent. I didn't know what I had done to cause her such rage. Then I realized that Emily had always been extremely conceited, something I had brushed aside in my memory. She wouldn't want anyone to know that she knows a lowly janitor, of course. She was very proud all the time. I had no idea how this encounter would start a series of events that would change my life. I started working after the business had closed for the day because I was assigned to the night shift that evening. We can clean areas we couldn't during the day at night, and when the office is vacant, work gets done much more quickly. The office was peaceful, and I worked quietly, a far cry from the busy afternoon. I saw a light coming from a room behind a frosted glass door as I proceeded to the next one. I didn't expect anyone to be working late because it wasn't the busiest time of year, and the security officer had informed me that most workers had departed on time. I chose to clean that room last and began cleaning the other rooms so as not to wake anyone who was still working. After finishing the cleaning in the other rooms, I opened the door to the one with the lights still on. To my surprise, the room was empty. I looked around, but there was no one in sight. Thinking the person might have stepped out for a break or gone to the restroom, I decided to clean the room quickly while they were gone. But just as I was about to start, I noticed a dark figure moving by the cabinet at the back of the office, muttering something to themselves. Is someone there? Wait, it's not a ghost, is it? That's creepy. What the heck? Why aren't these in order by date? What is this? It makes no sense. When I got closer, I realized the dark figure was Emily, crouched in front of the cabinet. My heart raced at the sudden appearance of my first crush, but I couldn't just ignore her distress. So I gathered my courage and spoke up. Do you need any help? Ah. Emily jumped, startled, and fell backward, landing on her behind. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I quickly apologized and tried to offer her a hand, but she ignored it, standing up on her own and leaving my hand awkwardly hanging in the air. What do you want? To make up for scaring her, I offered to help her find what she was looking for. Ah, here it is. Is this everything? It was placed pretty high up. Here you go. I handed Emily the files she had been searching for. She took the files from me with a bitter expression and said, Why are you speaking so formally? We were classmates, right? You can just talk normally. It's kind of awkward otherwise. I was thrilled that Emily remembered me, and without thinking, I blurted out, You remember me? In an excited tone. Emily quickly looked away, muttering, Of course I do, before adding, But I don't like you. I could only respond with a weak, Huh. That's really disappointing. From that day on, helping Emily with her work after my night shift became a daily routine. The reason this was happening was because Emily, in her incredibly roundabout way, said, I don't like you, Alex, but if you want to help, I'll let you. That's when she asked me for help. At first, she only trusted me with simple tasks like fetching documents or making copies. But since I actually have an IQ of 180, I quickly mastered anything she taught me. When Emily realized this, she stared at me in disbelief. So, I asked curiously, Is something wrong? Nothing at all, she replied, clearly flustered, turning away with her usual huff. What's going on? Please don't turn away like that. It makes me sad. By the 5th day of her overtime, we finally finished the work. That night, Emily, relieved, stretched her arms wide and said with a bright smile, Finally done. I also praised Emily for her hard work with a good job, but honestly, I felt a bit disappointed that our time alone together was coming to an end. All right, let's go grab a drink. The place Emily chose was surprisingly a casual pub joint. The place was buzzing with the voices of already tipsy customers, so loud that it drowned out the background music. Emily and I sat side by side at the counter. As she wiped her hands with a damp towel, she asked, Beer okay with you? I was thirsty, so I readily agreed. Emily turned to the bartender and called out, 3 beers, please. Huh, didn't you just say 3? Is someone else joining us? Worried that our alone time might be interrupted, I must have made a funny face because Emily, flipping through the skewer menu, laughed and said, I like to start with 2 beers at once. Surprised you, didn't I? Realizing no one else was coming, I did a little happy dance in my mind. When the 3 beers arrived, we toasted and congratulated ourselves on getting through the week. Emily downed her first beer quickly, finishing it in no time. While sipping her second, she said, Tonight's on me, so don't hold back. Drink up. I noticed her second glass was already half empty. Despite being so beautiful, her ability to drink like a man was truly impressive. That contrast was oddly appealing. Is this what people mean when they talk about the charm of contradictions? After a few beers, I started looking over the drink menu, thinking about ordering some wine. Beside me, Emily, who was nibbling on the endless supply of edamame, suddenly began to speak. I don't like you, but I hate Mr. Walker's son John even more. Realizing she was starting to rant, I nodded and encouraged her, Yeah, and then. Without even glancing my way, she continued talking as if to herself. He's always dumping impossible tasks on me. Do this. Do that. What's this? How did you do that? Explain this. I'm not his personal secretary. I've got my own work to do. Why can't he handle his own stuff? Is he a baby? Is that why he's always clinging to me? Clinging to you? When I blurted out in surprise, Emily turned toward me and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were there," before continuing her story. "Yeah, you're still here. Huh. I don't know if it's because he's been to the States or what, but he's always in my personal space. Like, who hugs someone when they first meet? You don't, right? He's always touchy-feely, acting all Western. It's unbearable. This is Japan, for crying out loud. A kiss on the cheek as a greeting? No way. I pushed him away just in time. Good job, me." As if fueled by her memories, Emily stabbed her chopsticks into a piece of karaage in front of her. Clearly frustrated, she munched on the fried chicken, grumbling, "He really pisses me off." I couldn't help but notice how different her impression of John was from what Carol had told me before. I was drinking wine, and when Emily was drinking whiskey with hot water, she looked curious and asked me what I was thinking. "So, why are you working as a janitor? You were so smart, always top of the class. It seems like such a waste." Expecting some grand reason, she seemed disappointed when I explained the simple truth. "Well, as you know, I had to drop out of high school when I couldn't afford the tuition, so my highest level of education is middle school. Nowadays, the only places that'll hire someone with that background are part-time jobs or manual labor. I was lucky to find this cleaning company that didn't care about my education, so here I am in this industry. A young guy with physical strength is in high demand." Emily's face twisted with frustration at my straightforward answer, and she loudly exclaimed, "Ah, that's so annoying." Exhausted from all the overtime, Emily slumped over the counter, nearly falling asleep right then and there. A college-age waiter approached us, looking apologetic. "Sorry, but we're about to close." Emily had already taken care of the bill before she got too drunk, but the real issue was her. I tried to wake her by gently shaking her shoulder. She briefly lifted her head, gave a lazy smile, and then slumped back down on the table. How was I going to get her home? In the end, I caved under the silent pressure from the waiter, who clearly wanted us to leave. So, I hoisted Emily onto my back and carried her out of the restaurant. As we stepped outside into the cool night air, she began to stir on my back. Thinking she might be waking up, I called out to her, but there was no response. Realizing she was still asleep, I started walking toward the main street, hoping to catch a cab. Suddenly, Emily, in a much softer and more affectionate voice than usual, began to mumble something. "I say I don't like you, Alex, but the truth is, I don't dislike you at all. Actually, I really like you, but I'm too embarrassed to say it, so I won't. So, you better not tell Alex, okay?" Hearing those words, I instinctively tightened my grip on the back of Emily's knees. At the same time, the realization that I was carrying her on my back hit me again, and my heart started pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Did she just say she likes me? I don't know how long I stood there like that. Suddenly, Emily, now more awake, began to squirm on my back and lightly punched my shoulder. "Hey, put me down," she demanded in her usual tone. So I quickly set her down. She seemed a bit embarrassed, perhaps realizing she'd been carried on my back. "I can't believe this. Thank God I wasn't wearing a skirt," she muttered, clearly flustered, her ears turning bright red. Despite her complaints, I couldn't help but be struck by how unexpectedly cute she was, so different from her usual tough demeanor, and my heart wouldn't stop racing. We walked to the main street, but no taxis were in sight. As we stood there waiting, Emily suddenly suggested something outrageous. "If we can't get a taxi, maybe I could crash at your place, Alex." What? Unfortunately, a taxi pulled up right then. Reluctant to let her go, I instinctively grabbed Emily's arm as she was about to get in. She turned to me with a shy smile and said, "Too bad. Maybe next time," before getting in the cab and heading home. After that, whenever we ran into each other at work, we started talking more. "Hey Emily, looks like you're not doing overtime anymore. How's work? Getting used to it? Hey Alex, Yeah, I'm getting the hang of it, but sometimes I still hit a wall. Could I ask for your advice again sometime? Since then, she's been coming to me for advice, and though I wasn't sure if my input was really helpful, I have to admit it felt great to be needed by someone I liked. I tried hard not to let it show, but I couldn't help grinning as I said, "Of course, feel free to ask any time. Sometimes an outsider's perspective can be valuable." I tried to play it cool, but inside I was over the moon. Unaware of my feelings, Emily smiled warmly and said, "It's great to have a reliable classmate like you. See you later," before walking off. As I stood there trying to contain my excitement, Carol, who had been watching us while wiping down a nearby plant, spoke up. "That girl's really changed since the beginning, hasn't she? She's nothing like the others here. Seems like a good kid." Hearing Carol praise the girl I liked made me feel a strange sense of pride. Right? She's really a great person. She even talks to someone like me without any pretense. I must have been showing my feelings more than I thought, because Carol gave me a knowing grin and said, "Oh my. You've really got it bad for that girl. But listen, with someone that beautiful and kind, if you don't step up, some other guy's going to snatch her away in no time. So you better go for it." Carol playfully smacked my back hard. Ouch. That really hurt. But yeah, you're right. I've got to get my act together. One day, I ran into Emily at work, and we were chatting like usual when a male employee walked by and deliberately dropped some trash right in front of me. I had a bad feeling as I looked up at the guy. He was wearing a sharp, tailored suit and had a smug grin on his tan face. He crossed his arms and said just one word, "Pick it up." As I was thinking, who the hell is this guy? Emily suddenly turned pale and shouted at him, "John, what are you doing?" "John? Oh, so this is John, Mr. Walker's son." "Emily, stay out of this. People like him get up when you're too nice. Now hurry up and pick it up." "Stop it. That's awful." "Alex, you don't have to pick it up," Emily insisted. "It's fine. It's my job," I said, bending down to pick up the trash. John looked down at me with disdain and said, "Guys like you, janitors, will never be on the same level as us. Emily, you're smart, so don't hang around someone this low. It'll just make you look bad, too. And don't defend another guy in front of your boyfriend. It's disrespectful." Boyfriend? I was shocked by this revelation, while Emily desperately tried to explain, "No, we're not dating." But at that moment, I didn't know what to believe anymore. John sneered, "Come on, Emily," and forcibly pulled her close by the shoulder, leading her away despite her protests. As I knelt there picking up the remaining trash, I noticed several pairs of shoes in my peripheral vision. I looked up to see John's entourage surrounding me, looking down with smug expressions. Did that janitor seriously think he had a chance? No way. That's ridiculous. How delusional can you get? Totally shameless. Did he really think he could date Emily? She's got a high-class boyfriend like John. The usual elite crowd was talking loud enough for me to hear, but I couldn't care less. All I could do was watch Emily, who kept glancing back at me with a troubled expression as she was pulled away. I felt utterly pathetic, but more than anything, I was devastated by the fact that Emily and John were dating. Sigh. I lost count of how many times I sighed that day. I couldn't get Emily and John out of my head. I was so distracted that I wasn't making any progress with my work. Noticing this, Carol came over and said, "Alex, you okay? I'll handle this room. Why don't you go take care of the reception area? Come on, off you go." She practically shoved me out of the room, leaving me no choice but to head to the reception area. But as I was leaving, I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. There was John, standing next to Emily with his arm around her waist, leaning in close as he talked to her. Carol, who had been pushing me from behind, noticed I'd suddenly stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" But I couldn't say anything. Following my gaze, Carol saw what I was looking at and said sadly, "I'm sorry, Alex. I was trying to get you away from here, so you wouldn't have to see that." That afternoon, I continued cleaning with a heavy heart. What was I even hoping for? John was right. Emily and I lived in completely different worlds. When did I start thinking I might actually have a chance with her? As I sighed for the umpteenth time, I saw Carol running down the hallway, looking flustered. Alex, something's wrong. That pretty girl. What's her name again? Emily? Yes, Emily. She's in trouble. According to Carol, she had been cleaning in the hallway near the meeting room as usual while keeping an ear out for the latest gossip. Suddenly, the noise inside the room grew louder, as if a commotion was starting. Soon, the commotion escalated into a heated argument. Sensing that something noteworthy was happening, Carol decided to listen more closely at the door. To her surprise, she heard Emily's voice from inside the room. It seemed like she was being scolded for a serious mistake, which is why Carol rushed to find me. I thanked Carol for telling me and hurried toward the meeting room. But as I stood outside the door, I realized something. I'm not even an employee of this company. I'm an outsider. If I barged in there, they'd probably just see me as some weirdo and throw me out. Thinking it wouldn't be wise to rush in, I decided to wait for the right moment to step in. As I listened in on the conversation from outside the meeting room, I realized John was trying to pin his mistake on Emily. I'm not at fault, right? I told you to calculate using data from the past 10 years, didn't I? That's not true. You told me that using last year's data would be sufficient. I have the email you sent with those instructions right here, Emily responded, showing him the email. But John wasn't backing down. I told you later to use the 10-year data. This is why you're useless, Emily. Hanging around that worthless janitor must be making you dumber. His manipulation was met with snickers from the others in the room. John then turned to the room and continued, I apologize for the inconvenience caused by my incompetent subordinate. We'll have someone else recalculate the numbers, and we can move on to the next proposal. He was about to carry on with the meeting when I could no longer stand by and open the door. The room fell silent as everyone turned to see a janitor, an obvious outsider, suddenly step in. Someone quickly dismissed me, thinking I was just there to clean. We're busy right now, so can you clean later? I can handle the calculations, I said, addressing the room full of elite employees and business partners. Everyone stared at me, mouths agape. Get out of here, outsider. Who does this guy think he is? Throw him out. This is a meeting. You can't just barge in. Someone called security, and the room erupted in shouts, some mocking, others angry, while the business partners looked bewildered. John sneered at me, utterly condescending. This isn't your place, janitor. Get out. The exit is over there. He pointed to the door with a smug look as his entourage of elites burst into laughter at his words. Go ahead and get back to cleaning. Hey, I spilled my tea here because of you. Mind wiping it up? They taunted. Ignoring them, Emily walked over to me with some documents. She handed me the papers and quickly explained what needed to be done. Emily then took the revised numbers I gave her and said, Here is the corrected data, projecting the updated figures for everyone to see. John immediately objected. What? Are you kidding me? This is completely fabricated. It's not fabricated. These calculations are accurate, Emily fired back. There's no way you could have recalculated all this in such a short time. Well, we did. Do you even know who Alex is? He's a genius who won the national math competition hosted by a top university. He's not like the rest of us. I never beat him in grades, not even once in high school. Emily's voice rang with pride as she spoke about me. As I listened, memories of my past came flooding back. I had always been a bright child, excelling in everything. My IQ was tested at 180, and I was often called a prodigy. During elementary school, I was good at every subject, but math was my true strength. My mother once told me that when I was in kindergarten, I could solve problems from high school entrance exams. When it came time for high school, I planned to attend a prestigious public school on a scholarship, given our financial situation, just my mother and me. But after winning a math competition, I received a scholarship to attend a private school known for its elite status. They offered me a full tuition waiver, and I accepted. I lived up to the school's expectations by winning the math competition. However, the victory led to a whirlwind of events. Banquets hosted by school alumni and local dignitaries, constant media interviews prying into my personal life. I was sick of it all. Alex, your mom raised you on her own, didn't she? Yes, that's right. Your dad's never been around. I don't have a father. Have you ever met him? Any memories of him? Why is that relevant? My father has nothing to do with this award. I hated how every interview seemed to date into why my mother was a single parent, how my father left after an affair, and other painful details. It made me despise the reporters. But the worst part was that I was losing time to study math, the subject I loved, because the school kept scheduling interviews and social events without my consent. It stressed me out so much that I began canceling and refusing the school's demands. One day, I was summoned to the principal's office by Dr. Harris. I reluctantly went, expecting another interview. But instead, Dr. Harris told me bluntly, "You know, Alex, we admitted you to this school to showcase the mathematical genius we have here, right?" "Yeah, I get that. Your role at this school is to promote us as a leading institution in mathematics. In other words, you're our school's poster boy." But that's not what I signed up for. The deal was that I just had to win the math competition. What are you talking about? It doesn't end with just winning the competition. Lately, you've been turning down interviews and skipping the social events, haven't you? That's because I asked them to stop invading my privacy. Enough. If this continues, we'll revoke your tuition waiver. If you want to stay at the school, you'll have to pay the same tuition as the other students. That's a problem. We can't afford that kind of money. Since we were never wealthy, there was no way my family could pay the private school's tuition. In the end, I had to drop out. With no motivation left, I didn't enroll in any other high school and just worked part-time jobs, which is why I only have a middle school education. Back in the meeting room, someone quickly checked the calculations on a computer. A surprised voice announced, "These numbers are correct." "It seems the janitor's calculations were accurate," said David, a client, letting out a heavy sigh. Jan, furious, snapped, "So what if the calculations are right? What you did is still obstruction. Remember that, you piece of trash." I fixed John with a steely gaze and replied, "Yes, I understand. I'm not here to show off my math skills. I'm here because I couldn't stand to see Emily being unfairly blamed. Isn't it a manager's job to protect their team? Instead, you shifted the blame onto her to save yourself. That's why I felt compelled to speak up." "What? Yes, I'm just a janitor, but I take pride in my work. I believe everyone here does too. But there's nothing more humiliating than having that pride trampled by your own superior." I found myself reflecting on my past, the bitterness of having my future crushed by the selfish pressures of those in power. My fists clenched tightly with the memory of that frustration. It was David who broke the tense silence. "Indeed, he's right, John. I'm sorry, but we'll have to continue this discussion another time." With that, David declared the meeting over and stood up to leave. The room buzzed with murmurs. Jan was apologizing repeatedly to David, trying to make amends. I watched this unfold, feeling detached, until Emily walked over, took my hand, and said, "Thank you, Alex. You were amazing." Her words made my face flush red, but before I could respond, another person suddenly grabbed my hand, startling me. "Wow, you're incredible. I could tell you were no ordinary guy just by watching you do those calculations earlier. I've never met a math competition winner in person before. You really are a genius." The excited man was one of the clients who had been serious during the meeting. I was caught off guard by his enthusiasm, but realized who he was, feeling embarrassed. I reluctantly agreed to take a photo with him on his phone. What just happened? As exhaustion washed over me, Emily, her cheeks flushed, said, "I'd like to thank you for today. Are you free tonight?" That evening, Emily took me to a stylish bar with a stunning view of the city lights. Feeling completely out of place, I was nervous, which made Emily laugh. We were seated at a cozy two-person sofa by the window, and I was mesmerized by the dazzling night view. Emily smiled warmly at me, her beauty making my heart race even more. "Since we're in such a lovely setting, let's order drinks that suit the atmosphere," she said, choosing a cocktail for me. I ended up with a martini, while Emily ordered a Manhattan. As we slowly sipped our delicious cocktails and enjoyed the view, Emily began to speak. "You know, I used to dislike you, Alex." "What?" Emily chuckled mischievously and continued, her gaze growing distant. Emily came from a well-known family and was raised as a model student with excellent grades and impeccable manners. She had an older brother and sister, both of whom graduated from prestigious universities. Her brother worked for a listed company, and her sister was stationed abroad with a multinational corporation. Growing up in such a family, she was under constant pressure to excel academically and maintain her reputation. While she struggled to stay at the top, she couldn't help but envy and resent me for being naturally gifted and able to maintain a scholarship without any apparent effort. One day, something happened that made her dislike me even more. That day, Emily couldn't finish a math assignment during class, so she stayed behind after school to work on it alone in the classroom. That's when I approached her and offered, "Need some help," in what she perceived as a condescending tone, which made her so angry that she ignored me. "Wait, that scene isn't that when I tried to talk to you and you ignored me? Was it really because of that? Did I really come off as arrogant?" But soon after, when I dropped out of school, Emily realized something important. Everyone carries wounds that others can't see. And then, slowly, she continued, "Even though you had your own pain, Alex, I only saw what was on the surface. After you left, I realized I had admired you all along, but by then, it was too late, and I never saw you again." Hearing Emily's unexpected confession from years ago, I decided to be honest about my own feelings. "I've always liked you, Emily, back then and of course, even now. I had admired how hard you worked, and I still do." Emily's eyes widened as she stared at me, her words coming out in a fluster. "I don't like you at all, Alex. Not even a little. You're just someone who's a bit better at math than others and has a big brain. And what's with you being so tall? What did you eat to grow that much? And don't think you can get away with being good-looking just because some of the women at work are fawning over you. Doesn't mean you should get all smug. I hate how you're so nice to everyone. You should only talk to me, not other people. I hate you, Alex. I really do." As she rambled on about all the things she supposedly hated about me, her eyes started to well up with tears. "Oh man, this is way too cute," I couldn't help but say aloud. "Hey, it sounds like you really like me, doesn't it?" Emily's face turned bright red, and tears began to spill from her beautiful eyes. Unable to hold back any longer, she finally admitted, "I like you a lot," through her tears. After that, the business deal was called off entirely. John was held responsible and was reassigned to a remote location. Despite his tearful pleas to his father, Mr. Walker, even his own father was disappointed, reportedly saying he never realized his son was such a fool. As for me, I took responsibility for the destruction I caused during the meeting and resigned from the cleaning company. Parting ways with Carol, who had treated me like a son, was difficult. "Carol, thank you for everything. You've been so good to me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. With tears in her eyes, Carol patted my shoulder hard as usual and said, "You can always come back. But honestly, Alex, you shouldn't. You're destined for greater things. Don't end up here. Go out there and make the most of your talents." Her words brought tears to my eyes as well, but I steeled myself, slapping my cheeks to get my focus back. "All right, time to get going. So what am I going to do now that I've lost my job as a janitor?" Well, it turns out that the client from that meeting was from a pretty big company. Impressed by my abilities, they offered me a job, saying, "We don't care about your academic background. We need your talent." It was basically a headhunting offer. Emily also decided to leave her job due to the stress of working with John and her concerns about the company's future. She joined the same company as me. Now, Emily and I work together. Rivals at work, but partners in life, helping the company grow and expand its business. So, Emily, have you thought about our future? What? Like what we're having for dinner tonight? No, I mean our future, as in us, our future. Well, looks like someone started thinking seriously about that. Alex, I'm seriously considering marriage. With Emily, but I have no idea what she thinks about it. This is one problem that can't be solved with an equation. So I'm thinking about asking Carol for advice. She's got a lot of life experience, and I could really use her help to give me the push I need when it comes to Emily. And with that, my story comes to an end. Although I ended up dropping out of school and spent years with my life on hold, reuniting with Emily set everything back in motion. I've proven that even without a formal education, talent and ability can still be recognized. I don't know what challenges lie ahead, but with a trustworthy partner by my side, I'm ready to face whatever comes our way.